Jupiter won't be the one opposing the moon. At least not for today. It's really Saturn. So yeah, hello, and welcome to Mercury Rising. I'm just gonna shift my camera on a little bit. There we go. Okay, cool. Sweet. Welcome to another Keeping Up with the Moon. Today is August 7th. Yeah, so Keeping Up with the Moon is my horoscopic series where I break down where the moon is and what the hell does that mean? And how can that possibly affect us down here on Earth? As always, these all come from my Instagram and Facebook, and I'm just explaining a little bit of the delineation that I wrote there in my horoscopes. So these videos will always be better if you read and watch the content. So don't hesitate to go back there, check it, and then come back here and listen to what I have to say. Anyways. Okay, let's get to it. So Moon in Leo, finally. Not new moon yet. We're like really close. I think new moon is tomorrow. Yes, new moon is tomorrow. So I've been alluding to this a little bit for the past few days and the consequences of the moon in Leo. Not that the moon in Leo is a bad thing. I have the moon in Leo. But anyways, I think I'm funny sometimes. But yeah, don't mind me. So not that the moon in Leo is a bad thing, but especially today, we're gonna deal with the moon in the first decan of Leo a whole lot. This is the decan that Saturn rules, and because of that, we can expect a little bit of challenges or something that's a little, at least mildly, tense. And if you also look into the new moon tomorrow, it's going to be opposed, not very tightly, but still will be opposed by Saturn. And the moon today will also oppose Saturn as it's transiting through Leo. So let's really hone in on this Saturn. Saturn are the boundaries, the difficulties, and all of the things, all of the not fun things in life. Hard work, consequences, coldness, dryness. Not the funnest guy. Necessary, very necessary, but still not the most fun guy in the world. And what Saturn in Leo really speaks to me, and this is definitely my view of this decan is really influenced by Austin Coppock because I did his course on the decans. But the way that he explains this decan is really talks on the consequences of being seen and the consequences of being public. And this is a thing that I think about a lot, especially as I'm starting a YouTube channel, like the thing that you're watching right now. Being seen is hard. When you're seen, you're judged. And I think that Saturn also really speaks on judgment, especially Saturn in Aquarius really speaks on judgment. We have Saturn in the sign that opposes Leo. And if Leo is all about the self and excitement and the identity of like being that central focus that really brings everybody else together, Aquarius is on the other end of the spectrum. It's like that one point, the one individual that sets everyone apart, or that sets that sort of boundary of I am me, this is my group, these are my people, and you are you and your people. When you're visible, you're subjected to that. You're gonna be put in a box. And I think that this transit and this lunation really, and I'll really talk about this more tomorrow, is asking us to think a little bit before we just want to be in that spotlight. Like, why do you want to be in the spotlight? If we're talking about social media and how there's like the whole attention economy and all of that. Everyone's seeking attention because also these days, if you don't have people's attention, it's much harder for you to make money. And I think this has always been true, but even more so today. But before getting to that point where we're seen, we're visible, people love us, there's a whole constellation of bodies revolving around you that support you and cheer on you and all of that. What happens when there's no crowd? And like, what will you do? Are you willing to become so dependent on this idea of having people pay attention to you and having people cheer you on that you now forget how to be in that Saturn and Aquarius space where you really set yourself apart to do your own thing? If we're talking about Saturn as this idea of judgment being like the main villain of this whole Leo story. Especially as a Leo moon myself, one of the big things that I struggled earlier earlier in life was this idea of trying to like really pander to what people like. And I, in many ways, a gay black person. And it's a little bit harder to to pander to what people like, especially back when I was a little bit younger. The thing with that is that you also lose a little bit of your integrity if you're just trying to pander to what people want to avoid a little bit of their judgment. And I think that the consequence of being in this Leo space is really to be aware that you won't be able to please everybody. Not everybody is going to be happy with what you're about to present, and that's fine. It's a little bit scary to be in that spotlight and to be at the focal point of it all, but you know, it is what it is. I guess there's nothing you can do to control what other people will do, and we'll really talk about this tomorrow. Like, also, as we progress into the actual decan of the new moon, we have Jupiter, the Jupiter ruling decan. And funny enough, we have Saturn and Jupiter both in Aquarius right now. So we're really having like a major lesson on Saturn and Jupiter issues as they're reflected onto Leo, because they're both in the sign that opposes Leo. Jupiter is much more friendly than Saturn. even in Aquarius, much more friendly. With Jupiter in Aquarius, we get a little bit more of the humanitarianism of Aquarius really show up. I want to step away from the norm or what's expected of me to make sure I'm making things better for everybody. That's sort of how I read the Jupiter in Aquarius attitude. But Jupiter won't be the one opposing to me. At least not for today. It's really Saturn. So, yeah, I don't know. So if we're talking about Jupiter and this idea of like really trying to help everybody, Saturn, on the other hand, is a reminder that you can't help everybody. Some people won't want your help. And I think that that's one thing that we have to be okay with. And as we're on the very last day of this last cycle that is about to end, I think this is a really important thing to think about. Embrace the idea that you cannot be perfect in everybody's eyes. So my camera just died, but because I'm at the very end of it, I'm not going to go back and rewind and do all of that. Because we've been talking about this whole Venus and Virgo situation, and I won't really touch on it because I've talked about it a lot, and you can just go back to the previous videos if you haven't watched them. What I really just want to understand out of today is that before we get into this exciting new moon in Leo, we need to be aware of, I guess, what's the shadow of Leo and what are the problems of being in the Leo space. Not that Leo's a bad sign. I'm not saying that. Please don't get that. But being the center of attention comes with consequences. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be the center of attention, but before you go into that, the best thing for you to do is to be realistic and know that you can never please everybody. And I'm sorry if I talked in circles on this last one. The camera died and it was all confusing. But with that said, I think that's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow for a full-on new moon report. And with that, I'm going bye-bye. Peace. I'd like to take this moment to thank and credit my teachers and people who have influenced me throughout my studies. These are also people who I may quote from time to time. Vadius Valens, Dimitra George, Patrick Watson, Firmicus Maternus, Dorotheus, Lisa Scheim, Austin Coppa, Kelly Surtees, Gemini Brett, Samuel Reynolds, Hermes, T. Susan Chang, Mel Moline, Chris Brennan, Saint Expedite, Gordon White, Connor Habib, and Eric L. Arnson.